Hello everyone, this is Rohit Sharma and I welcome you all here. My dear students, as you know, life is full of choices and the choices we make define the whole course of our lives. Dear students, how do you make a choice or choose out of many choices or options? Every day we face such a situation when we have to decide out of the given options. It's not only about making a choice, but it's about making a right choice also. The very question is whether the choice made by us is right or wrong. We get confused as both the choices or options look the same to us. Now the question arises, which road should I take? Should I go this way or that way? Which way should I go? Which way should I go? Whether the road taken by me will be fruitful or not. Today, we are going to read such a poem that is based on the same theme. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet. His works start with delight and end in wisdom. His poems, though look simple, but they have a greater meaning. This poem, I would say, is just more than a poem as it's about the journey of life. Robert Frost wrote this poem for his friend Edward Thomas and was published in 1961 as the first poem in the collection Mountain Interval. The poem, having a perfect rhyme scheme AB, AAB, is about the choices we make in our lives. On your screen, my dear students, you can see a path. This is a straight path without any bend or turn. And in this picture, you can see this path is divided into two parts. And this point of division is called diversion, or you can say division, bifurcation, or a fork. And here on the left, you can see a dense growth of plants and trees, which is known as undergrowth. This one here you can see this path has been used by so many people, that's why there are no trees, which is known as a trodden path. And this one you can see untrodden, which is not trodden, untrodden. It means you can see the leaves are still fresh and green, that's why this one is untrodden one. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. My dear students, as you can see, this is the first stanza of the poem The Road Not Taken. You can see here two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. One day the poet or the narrator was going through a forest whose leaves had turned yellow in autumn. The narrator says that there came a diversion in the road, or the road was bifurcated or divided into two parts. There was a fork in the road, and the narrator, had to choose one road out of the two. He had to make a choice. As you can see on screen, this two rod represent a choice in life. This is a metaphor here. Diverse means bifurcated, and yellow wood means because the trees had become, or trees and the leaves, you can say, had become yellow. It was autumn season. And be one traveller long I stood. He says he regretted that he was unable to travel by both roads as he was one person. And one person can walk or travel only on one road at one time. The poet kept standing there for a long time and looked at the path very carefully, as far as he could see it, before choosing the path. He wanted to make it sure how it was, Was it a right road for him or not? But he could not see or able to see the path very far because, as you can see the last line, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Because the forest was so dense and the road was not so straight, the road bent after and it was covered with plants and trees and it was hidden. It means sometimes we cannot clearly see or predict our future. My dear friends, my dear students, look at some of the figures of speeches used here. Metaphor, first of all, what do you mean by metaphor? A metaphor is a thing regarded as representative or symbolic of something else. Road here in the poem is the metaphor of life. And while the fork or diversion on the road metaphorically represents the choices we make to determine the course of our lives. Similarly, here, yellow wood are the metaphor of making decisions during the hard times of a person's life. Here you can see the word and, and. The word and has been used in line number 2, 3, and 4. This repetition of a word at the beginning of successive clauses is known as anaphora. What is it known as? Anaphora. What is the spelling? Anaphora. Next, Anja. So here the poet was in dilemma. He had to make one choice out of the two options. There he goes. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. What do you mean by here as just as fair? He sees both choices as having equal merit, pros and cons. Grassy means the narrator chooses the path that was grassier because less people had walked on it in the past. And what do you mean by worn? Worn out? Because it was used by so many people. That's why the road was worn out. What do you mean by fair here? As good as the other one. What do you mean by claim? Claim means a better option. Then took the other as just as fair. The speaker says that he took the other path, judging it to be just as good a choice as the first one, and supposing that it might even might be the better option of the two, since it was grassy and looked less worn than the other path. It shows that not many people had walked on this path earlier. That's why this path was grassy. And what do you mean by wanted wear here? Wanted wear means that it was not walked over by many people. After he had walked on the path for some distance, look at this though as for that the passing there, after walking for some distance, he realized that both the paths had been worn out the same way. My dear students, even in our lives, we choose a path or make a choice and later on find out that all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them. We think that the choices we are making is a better option, but it's not the same way as we think. So here figure of speech, as you can say in this first line, as just as fair, this is simile. Simile is a direct comparison using as and like. So this is a use of simile here. Can you tell me, my students, where the poet has used personification and alliteration? Look at the word wanted where. What do you mean by wanted where? Yes, Robert Frost has personified road in this line or in these words. Look at this, wanted wear. The road was grassy and wanted wear. As if the road is human being and it wants to wear and tear. And this word sound makes it alliteration. Next, third stanza. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads to on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. The speaker here recalls that both roads were covered in leaves, which hadn't been turned black by footsteps. The poet says that both the paths were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them, and no one had stepped on them as they were still fresh and green in color. Oh, the speaker exclaims here that he was in fact just saving the first road and would travel it at a later date, but then immediately contradicts himself with the acknowledgement that in life one road tends to lead another, or you can say to another road. So it's therefore very unlikely or impossible to come back to the same road. He knew that he couldn't go back on the choices or the choice that he had made. Similarly, my dear students, in our lives, once we have made a choice, we must keep on moving ahead with that option because there is no coming back. So, the poet kept thinking and thinking and he analyzed both the roads. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. So what do you mean by sigh here? Sigh means deep breath, and hence here in the future. And look at the repetition of two words, ages and ages in the second line. The speaker imagines himself in the distant future here, recounting with a sigh the story of making the choice of which road to take. He would be telling that he had reached such a point in life where he was faced with a choice between two roads, and he chose to take the road that was less traveled, and that very decision of his decided his future and made all the difference in his life. My dear students, though Robert Frost doesn't say that the road chosen by him was good or bad, but it has made all the difference in his life. Whatever he is today is because of his choice and decision. My dear students, this is a very, very strong message to all the students, to all of us, that we should be wise, alert, and careful while making choices out of the options that we face in our lives. Because our future depends on the choice that we make today. So, my dear students, you can see the poem at a glance on your screen. Life is full of choices, and the choices we make define the whole course of our lives. Similarly, the narrator faces a situation during his travel. He finds two roads at a point where he has to choose one and must abide by his choice. He thinks he may come back one day to travel on the other road. However, he also has a feeling that his choice will confront him with new adventure and challenges. Though there is some regret over his choice, yet he realizes that the thing he has encountered and the places he has visited because of this path have made all the difference in this or in his life. So, what have we learned out of this poem? This is one of my favorite poems. The Road Not Taken is more than a poem as it is about the journey of life. The poem makes us think about choices we must make in life. All of us reach a crucial point in life when we must make a right choice, and that choice determines our destiny. The poet says that the path we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. This poem also inspires us to face the challenging realities in life. Robert Frost is very optimistic. He looks into distant future. A small courageous step makes a big difference. It can lead to a great discovery, success, prosperity, or happiness. So, my dear students, we must be wise while making choices. I hope that you have got confident. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice time. Bye bye.